We are finally here. After almost 3 weeks, 13 days of competition, 13 recaps made on this channel, and many maps of Counter-Strike played and watched later, we have crowned a champion in the first major in the history of Counter-Strike 2. After an epic series that went all 3 maps, NAVI stands tall over Faze Clan, the winners of the PGO Major at Copenhagen. A legacy marred by constant betrayal and question marks, Aleksib cements himself as one of the best in-game leaders in the game today, taking a team of unknown and young international talent through all the way to the finish line against one of the greatest roster cores in the history of Counter-Strike, led by arguably the best in-game leader to ever play in Kerrigan. And as Kerrigan is like my top 2 favorite player of all time, I do feel a little bit bittersweet about this outcome. I want to see Kerrigan secure a second major, cement that legacy even further, and become the unquestioned best IGL to ever play. But at the same time, nobody in the scene in these last few years has worked as hard as Aleksib, only to find himself continuously on the chopping block in situations that weren't really his fault. From leading an unknown ENCE team to the finals in 2019, to being unable to reproduce those results in teams like NIP and G2. He can finally stand tall at the mountaintop, knowing that his style is vindicated, that he is a winner, and he did it with an incredible group of players behind him. So if you missed the happenings today, we're going to go over all 3 maps, get into what went on in this grand finals, and wax even more lyrical about how NAVI are crowned the kings of Counter-Strike, at least for today. But before we do, make sure you guys take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, and helps me with my goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers as fast as possible. Your guys' support over these last 2.5 weeks has been incredible. Covering pro Counter-Strike is something that I've always wanted to try and do, and seeing the response from you guys has me more motivated to do this on a bigger scale, more in depth going forward. So look forward to that kind of content coming soon. Normally I would plug other stuff like channel membership or following me on my Twitch channel, but I want to keep this brief and get into the analysis. All I'll say as a final note is just thank you guys so much for all the support. It really means a lot, and let's get into the video. Alright, before I start jerking off NAVI for how good they were today, I think because there's just one series to cover, I really want to go deep here and get into the nitty-gritty of how NAVI set themselves up for success in this game, and also point out that I think one of the biggest mistakes FaZe made going into this actually starts with the Map Veto. When you look at the map pools for both of these teams, one thing that really stands out is that they play a lot of the same maps. The biggest difference between the two is that 2 of NAVI's best maps are 2 of FaZe's worst. NAVI really likes Overpass and Anubis, while FaZe have struggled to find success there. And with both teams favoring a Vertigo permaban, that means that there's actually a lot of overlap in a best of 3 series. You're going to have to play on each other's best maps typically in a series. So when we get down to the actual pick ban for the series, FaZe starts off by taking Anubis off the board. That makes sense, you don't want NAVI to have a comfort pick. NAVI bans Vertigo, it's the permaban for both teams, they don't want to play it, so it makes sense that that one goes away. Now, for FaZe's first pick, they take the risk on Ancient. Now Ancient is a map that is middling for both teams. FaZe hover at a 50% win rate over the last 3 months, while NAVI hovers around a 43% over the last 3 months. My problem with this pick, especially at the time and in retrospect, is that Nuke is still on the board. Nuke is admittedly a great map for both teams, but why not take the map that you are much more comfortable on as FaZe? Take a risk, play them on your best map, and see what happens. You're allowing Ancient to be more of a coin toss because both of you don't play it as well. And then you add on the caveat that to qualify to the finals, NAVI had to beat G2 on an Ancient decider in dramatic fashion. So going into this series specifically, NAVI are riding a high when it comes to playing Ancient. I think allowing Ancient through here was a total mispick by FaZe. Especially because following that, it allows NAVI to pick Mirage, one of their favorite maps, and then ban Nuke so it can't be the decider. You have to ban Overpass if you're FaZe because you don't play it, and that leaves the decider as Inferno every single time. We could have had a pick ban that instead was Nuke, Mirage, Inferno, and in that case, I actually think that series is a lot more favored towards FaZe. Instead, we throw up to this coin toss to start on Ancient, and when we get into that map, it doesn't work out for FaZe. They lose this opening map, and they didn't look particularly confident on Ancient. Like, you're opening up on the T side, you win the pistol round and the conversion, that's all great, but the big thing is, this second round from FaZe to start off the map ends in mild disaster. NAVI get 4 exit kills on a round where they really shouldn't have gotten any had FaZe maneuvered better as a team, and that economic damage adds up. NAVI win the next gun round, and now instead of Faze having a bonus round where they could buy back immediately, they're now on the back foot economically, and that really adds up. It allows NAVI to win 6 of the next 7 rounds and really control the pace and tempo of the map. It allows players like Bit, JL to get comfortable. You have Aleksib owning the cave side. Meanwhile, players that you rely on for momentum on Faze like Brokey only get 1 op buy the entire half because you never recover your economic state after the second round. Add on to that, you have Rain and Rops going missing, and that's a recipe for disaster. NAVI would win the pistol round and the next 2 on their T side, and then Faze would mount a good comeback to take 4 in a row on their CT side that looks like they're in control. But as soon as NAVI win their first round afterwards, they close out the map immediately, 13-9. And honestly, it wasn't a very competitive 13-9. For NAVI, this is exactly what you would want out of an opening map like this. Albeit Wonderful went missing, only 11 kills, he bottom frags for their team. You have everyone else locked in. Emma with a bounce back performance, great on the lurks. JL looking monstrous, winning clutches. Aleksib again, CT side dominant, looking really good as the in-game leader. And then the resurgence of Bit. Bit was the key for this entire final. Bit looked exactly like he did the last time he was on the major stage. In the first final he won with the old NAVI, he's really struggled to resurge into that form since his first major win, and he brought it out when they absolutely needed it. What a killer map from him. We move on to map 2, Mirage. Again, a map that I want to highlight. Both of these teams have a very high win rate on, which really reinforces my point about Ancient being a bad pick for Faze, because what do Faze do? They get hit in the mouth to open up this major, they walk out onto Mirage and shut down NAVI. 13-2. Absolute dominance from the side of Faze. What I love from Faze here is the way they suffocated map control from NAVI during their CT side. Constant pushing through the top mid, make sure Wonderful can't get anything going with the op. Constantly trying to get pressure into the B apartments through underpass, disrupting any attempts for NAVI to take map control. They were all over the place, the utility was effective, the trades were even better, and you got everything you needed out of Faze in this game. Rops and Frozen leading the charge with the most frags, Rain, the clutch anchor on the CT side, and Brokey getting the work done with the op. This was a perfect Faze win. And you gotta call it how it is. NAVI, they look a little shook. When they couldn't get anything going halfway through this half, they really looked like they were at their wits' end. They didn't even know where to start to try and mount a comeback. And for me, this game was over when Kerrigan and Rain manufactured a 2v4 post-plant win that they should never have been able to do. It was poor swings by NAVI, giving 1v1s to Faze the entire way and letting Rain control the A-bomb site. Just really sloppy stuff from the NAVI T side. So we've opened up the grand finals. Both teams have absorbed knockout punches from each other. We find ourselves at 1-1. And where are we? The classic test of Counter-Strike. The third map Inferno Decider. This is one of the most iconic aspects in esports history. So many classic series over the years have come down to this. One game, Inferno, who is the better team? And despite all the flaws that Inferno may have, justified flaws at that, this version of Inferno, it's not good. It's not that fun to play, and sometimes it's not very fun to watch. But there's something about Inferno as a format, as an idea, that tends to produce great Counter-Strike when it really matters. And this is one of those games. This was a classic map from NAVI. And even though it's a 13-3 game, where NAVI are in control the entire time, the way NAVI navigated this map was beautiful, perfect Counter-Strike. Faze threw some of their best looks at them, and it didn't matter. NAVI rose above every single time, and they just kept on winning and winning. It didn't matter if JL was alone on the B bomb site, or Bit was isolated in the A apartments. NAVI found a way time and time again. And leading the way for NAVI on this final map, who else would it be except for Bit and JL? Bit with a map best 23 kills, a 2.16 rating, 131 ADR. This man was a monster. It felt like he couldn't miss if he tried. The play in the apartments where he gets the 4K right as the stream dies was incredible. And JL was just a black hole. If NAVI found him, he was taking 1, sometimes 2, a lot of the times 2, and making them look silly. And despite an otherwise flawless reputation for strategic excellence, there is one thing that has always haunted the legacy of Kerrigan, and its final maps on Inferno. He just has a history where we get to Inferno, it's the decider, and Kerrigan goes missing as an individual, the strats start to fall apart. It's just a map that seems to get the better of him time and time again. And I don't know how to explain that because he's one of the very best minds Counter-Strike has ever produced. But this is just a continual flaw. From Boston to Copenhagen, Inferno Deciders will haunt Kerrigan for the rest of his career. And it does suck to see Kerrigan go from being such a high individual player throughout this tournament, showing brief moments that, hey, I used to be a star player too, carrying Faze through games sometimes in this tournament when he needed to going 1-15 in the decider, the major finals. That's brutal. That one, it's gotta sting. There's no way around it. NAVI take the map 13-3. They close out the series 2-1, and they are crowned your PGL Major at Copenhagen champions in the Royal Arena. And I'm not gonna lie, watching Aleksib lose his goddamn mind on stage, rip his jersey off, throw it through the air, jump on the stage, jump into the crowd looking for hugs everywhere he can get it. What a story for this man. This is one of the best performances in the majors we have ever seen. NAVI had to go through the meat grinder to get here. No top 5 players on this roster. Everyone doubting their ability to do it without Simple. And here they are, raising the trophy over one of the best lineups to ever play Counter-Strike. This might be better saved for a different time, but where does this put NAVI in the discussion of the top teams in the world is an interesting question. The big thing is the question marks. We don't know what wonderful JL, Emma, and Bit are going to continue to produce after this tournament. They've all been inconsistent throughout their tenure. And you have this looming shadow of Simple behind the organization. Is he worth bringing in? Is he worth letting go? Will he fit the Aleksib system now that he's seen it produce a major victory? Will Simple put his faith in Aleksib in the way he hasn't put it behind in-game leaders in the past? Those questions are all looming large over this team. But they're definitively a top 5 team in the world. I would say, just off of my gut reaction, if I had to give you a top 5 right now, it would be Spirit, Faze, Vitality, and then G2 and NAVI I think are pretty even. You could put them at 4 or 5 and I wouldn't be mad about it. But at the end of it all, this wasn't about world rankings. This wasn't about any of that. This was a statement series from Aleksib saying, hey, I can work. My teams can work. I can win. And to all the teams that came before him, G2, NIP, ENCE, where the fuck are your trophies today, dickhead? That's all that Aleksib cares about right now. All of you should be feeling the weight of that. Whew, what a grand final. I'm exhausted, emotionally, physically, mentally. My voice is starting to fail on me, but I've had a great time. And I really look forward to diving into the kind of the meta and the outcomes of this major more so over the next few weeks. So make sure you guys join me on that journey. Leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Shout out to my channel members, Furley, my brothers Justin and Jesse. I couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you so much. If you guys want to become a channel member, consider doing so. For $5 a month, you can support me directly and gain access to exclusive stuff such as emblems, emotes, a shout out just like that at the end of every video, and more stuff coming soon. More on that later. And make sure you guys follow me on Twitch, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys soon with another video. You have a great weekend. Happy Easter if you celebrate it. Peace.